of the state, of the nation. It's the history of men. We study religion, theology, philosophy. It's the theology, the philosophy of men. Okay. In the 1970s, we had a change in what was taught, what was studied in the universities. And we had a whole new range of academic disciplines that we'd never seen before. Women's studies for the first time. We never really worried about women. 3/4 of this room are women. But they always studied about men. Film and television studies started to become important. Social history, not of the kings and queens and ministers, prime ministers, but of peasants. Workers of the countryside became important. Look at the catalogue of Ateneo University Press and see the sort of books that are being published about social history after this period. Black studies, gay studies, studies of groups who were outside the respectable community suddenly became important. Post-colonial studies begins to emerge in the 70s. Study of what is happening in the colonies, not what is happening in Washington, what is happening in Manila, how American culture is changing Filipino culture, how French culture changed Vietnamese culture, how Singapore culture, Indian culture reflected English culture and yet worked it into a different format, a different shape. I'm sure not finally, but including translation studies. Before, translation studies was just something we did. Change the words. Take a text in English, put in Filipino words, and then you have a text in translation. It's not that easy. We know it's not that easy. And all of these new humanities are dealing with politics between men and women, social history between classes, black studies between ethnic communities, gay studies between straight and gay people, post-colonial studies between the colony and the centre which claims to understand and speak for the colony. Translation studies. What texts are translated? What texts are translated from the Philippines? How are they presented? What sort of image do they show of this country? It's about politics, it's about power, it's about ideology. It's about men and women, it's about all social classes, and it's definitely not about respectable culture. It's the whole of the human experience is happening in the new humanities. These are what we would call subjugated. Foucault, the French scholar. Talks about subjugated, hidden, oppressed, varied knowledges, things that were not respected, that we didn't look at before. Suddenly now at the university, and this is what is very important, I think, for you people to see the whole world, the whole society, to see all levels, all dimensions, not just a very small segment. Ask me questions if you want to stop.
Our shift actually happened from the whole humanities thinking. Did something happen? Seems like all of them happened at the same time.
It's amazing, yeah. I'm not exactly sure what the answer is. I think in the 60s, part of it is the rise of Marxism in the West, accepting Marxism as talking about ideology, about power in society. Part of it is about opening the universities up. At that time, universities really expanded from just being the upper class playground to really recruiting students from all levels of society. 1966, 1968, a lot of student demonstrations, as well American demonstration against what we call the Vietnam War, what people from Vietnam call the American War. The American War. I don't know what you call it in the Philippines. Yeah. So 1968 student revolutions in Paris. Great time of turmoil and just reconfiguring how we see society. It may be something very deep.